The Monster and the Dwarf. There lived a dwarf in a small village on the outskirts of a large, dense forest. In the forest, there lived a mighty monster. He was feared by all. He was brutal and merciless, and would attack all creatures, big and small, who crossed his path. He had a huge appetite and would often attack the village nearby, dragging away men, women, and even children. He would kill them and eat them up. The villagers did all they could to fight the monster, but it was of no avail. At last, all the people in the village held a meeting and thought of all kinds of plans to overcome the monster. However, all their plans failed. A silence fell on the assembly. At that moment, the dwarf climbed up the shoulder of a man sitting nearby and shouted, "Please, listen to what I say. Leave this job of killing the monster to me." The villagers simply laughed at this. "Leave the job of killing the fierce monster to this dwarf who does not reach up to the monster's waist even. What a joke." Somebody remarked, "Better join a circus as a clown. Trying to be a hero?" Everybody joined in the laughter, but the dwarf was not to be put off. The dwarf now turned serious. "I am not joking," he said. "I have a plan to kill the monster," he boldly said, and he continued, "What reward will you give me if the plan works and I really kill the monster? Tell me." "Well, we will weigh you in silver," said the village chief at this. "Come, do you agree?" "Done," said the dwarf. Now, it so happened that in one of the neighboring villages, there lived the maternal uncle of the dwarf. The dwarf declared that he was going to visit his uncle's place. "In passing through the forest, I will meet the monster. There is bound to take place a trial of strength." And the dwarf spoke with a ring of confidence. "Let us see who wins." As he started off on the trip, the dwarf took a small basket of sweets with him. He put the small basket in a piece of cloth and entered the forest. Carrying the bundle off his head, trembling with fear, he kept praying to God to save his dear life as he went deeper into the forest. Meanwhile, there came a noise like the roll of thunder. This was the loud laughter of the monster. Suddenly, the monster himself appeared before the dwarf. The monster was as large as a mountain. As he bared his teeth, his mouth opened wide like that of some wild animal ready to spring on its prey. The dwarf started shaking with fear, awaiting his death any moment now. He offered a silent prayer to God. He put down on the ground the bundle of sweets he was carrying on his head. He fell at the feet of the monster and said, "O mighty monster, I am here at your service. I have come specially to meet you, and more, accept this small gift, a basket of sweets I have brought for you." The monster now looked steadily at the dwarf. "Very funny," said the monster to himself. "Let me fill my belly first and feast on this basket of sweets." And so the monster sat down to eat the sweets brought by the dwarf. The next moment, as he looked up, he found the dwarf now lying on the ground and turning this way and that, crying out aloud as if in pain. "Why, what's the matter with you?" asked the monster. "Well, it's an attack," said the dwarf, groaning in pain. "Attack? What attack?" the monster asked. "Well, it's some kind of a stomachache. I almost die of pain when I have the attack," spoke the dwarf with great effort. The monster showed some sympathy by nodding his head. "O mighty monster," the dwarf now said, finding him in a kind mood, "I am tired of life. I can't bear this pain any longer. There is one way, however." "Is there a way?" asked the monster with a touch of pity. "Yes, there is." Pausing for a while, the dwarf said. I was told that if I could collect a hair from off your beard, it could cure me of this disease. This had the desired effect on the merciless monster. He was flattered to know that his hair could cure someone of a terrible disease. The monster immediately plucked off a hair from his beard and gave it to the dwarf. Take this and visit me again when you are cured, said the monster. The dwarf was waiting for this moment. He fell at the feet of the monster and bade him goodbye. On his way, the dwarf plucked a leaf from the branch of a peepal tree and put the hair on it and folded it. He tied it up with a string and put the packet in his pocket. The dwarf reached his uncle's village. When the dwarf arrived, his uncle was talking with the village elders. They were all happy to see the dwarf and greeted him warmly. The dwarf expressed his wish to bathe in the water. As he left for the riverside, he entrusted his uncle with the packet and said, Kindly do not open it. It is very precious. The uncle and the other villagers, however, could not contain their curiosity and opened the packet. To their utter astonishment, all they found inside was a hair. They looked at one another in wonder. When the dwarf returned, he found them all to be so full of regret. Even so, they could not help asking what the hair was for. What was the mystery? At this, the dwarf said in a whisper, The thing is, the hair is plucked from the beard of a terrible monster who resides in the forest on the outskirts of my village. The hair has a magical quality, the dwarf went on, pleased to see the wonderment on the faces of the villagers around him. The hair has the miraculous powers of healing the most dreadful of diseases, especially the disorders of the chest and the stomach. Well, this was enough to wake up the whole village. The story of the magical qualities of the hair spread like wildfire. In a short while, all the brave men in the village, swords and spears in hand, marched to the forest. Some of them had bows and arrows. The hunt for the monster had started. Seeing them all drawing near his cave, the monster felt happy for a moment. He would kill them all and eat them up, thought the monster. But the next moment, there was a rain of blows of swords and spears, and a shower of poisonous arrows. The monster was not at all prepared for this. He fought and fought, but he failed in the end, and fell down on the ground, wounded and bleeding. The villagers now rushed to the spot where the wounded monster was lying, breathing his last. They all fell to tearing off bits of the hair of his beard. Everyone wanted to have his share of the magical hair. With the monster so defeated, the dwarf returned to his village. Now, my reward, said the dwarf proudly with a glow of triumph on his face. The villagers cried, Hooray, hooray, and lifting the dwarf on their shoulders, carried him around the village in a victory procession. The dwarf was then weighed in silver. Moral of the story: never lose courage. Always use your intelligence and find a way out. Do not take people lightly or judge them by their size or appearance, and never mock at them. Even the most fierce of monsters can be killed if all stand united.